If you have been looking into Godot signals, you have probably come across the phrase call down signal up. Let's break it down together in this video. The main reason for this pattern is to avoid something called tight coupling. Tight coupling happens when different parts of your code rely too much on each other. In Godot, this usually happens when you reference other nodes directly. But why is very tight coupling important? Well, it means you can reuse your nodes without breaking your code. So let's take a closer look and see how it actually works. But before we get into that, let's quickly understand how a Godot game is structured. In Godot, everything is made up of a hierarchy of nodes, kind of like a family tree. You have got parents and children, where parents contain children and children belong to their parents. Now let's see what happens when we directly call function instead of using signals, which we can call down, call up. I have already created three scenes. First one is player, second one is flow button, which is an area 2D with the sprite 2D and collision shape 2D, and third one is level 1, which has the player and flow button as children. If we run the game, the player can move around. When we step on the button, it gets pressed and the player's size increases. Let's have a look at the code. We don't need to look at the player script. That's just for movement and animation of player. What we care about are other two scripts. Level 1 script have player size increase function, which is simply scales up the player when it's called. Next we have flow button script. When the player enters the button's collision shape, the button's texture changes to the press one, and then it calls the parent's player size increase function to scale the player. So what's the issue here? Now you can't use this flow button anywhere else unless the parent scene has a function called player size increase. For example, let's create another scene, level 2. In this one, we will also add the player and flow button, but this time we want the button to double the player's speed instead of scaling. So in level 2 script, we will write the following code. As you can see, we now have a player speed increase function instead of the player size increase. Now let's go ahead and run level 2. But as soon as we step on the button, the game crashes. But that's not the only problem. Let's go back to level 1. Add a new node 2D as a child and then move the flow button inside that node. Run the game again, it crashes again. Even though level 1 script still has the player size increase function, the button's getParent now refers to the new node 2D, not level 1. To fix it, you have to write getParent.getParent or use getOwner, which always points to the root node. You might think, well, if I just use getOwner, I can get away with it. But here's the problem. What if later you actually need to reference that middle node 2D? So what's the solution? Instead of calling a function directly, we can emit a signal from the flow button. Here's the updated flow button script. Now the button doesn't know or care who the parent is. It just says, hey, I was pressed. Then in level 1 script, we connect the signal like this. Here when the button is pressed, it calls the onFlow button press function, which doubles the player's size. Now in level 2 we can reuse the same flow button. Also remember that we can connect custom signals through the node tab in the Godot editor, just like we do with built-in signals. Here's how level 2 script looks like. So this time when the player steps on the button, instead of changing size, their speed doubles. Now the button is completely reusable. You can move it anywhere and it will still work. Now you might ask, why don't we always use signals? Why not signal down, signal up instead of call down, signal up? Well, here's the problem. Even though signals don't require the sender to know the receiver still needs a reference to the sender when connecting. So if we use signals down as well, the children would again need to reference the parent, and that's basically the same as call down, call up. Then you might say, okay, why not signal down, call up? Well, in most cases, it's the child nodes that we want to reuse, not the parents. And that's it for this one. Hope that helped clear things up. If it did, consider leaving a like and subscribing.